It's an old tale they used to tell in the whispers, the water woman and her lover. But even as they whispered, they were afraid the wind might blow their whisperings near the cooker. There was an old cooker through which water passed. On moonlight nights, a naked woman was often seen sitting near the cooker, with her back to the road and her face to the river. She was a fair-skinned woman, and she had long black shiny hair rolling over her shoulders and down her back. Below her waist, she was like a fish. People used to come from Salem, Tushen, Namrik, and other parts of the east bank of the Azebo River to see this mysterious creature. They would wait in the bushes near the cooker from early morning and watch to see her rise from the river, but no matter how closely they watched, they would never see her. Then suddenly a completely naked woman facing the river and combing her long black hair would appear. There was a strong belief among the villagers in the area that anyone who could find Water Mama's comb or a strand of her hair would have good luck and would be rich. So they made a plan to set out and search for these items. In the morning, even before the sun rose, they would search around where she had sat combing her hair. But no matter how hard they looked, they could not find a single item. They only found puddles of water and a strong fishy smell. The old people said that after looking at Water Mama or searching near the cooker for her hair and her comb, you were always left feeling haunted and afraid. They told stories of persons leaving the cooker sleeping as if in a trance. They warned that if a man watched her too long and searched for her hair and her comb too often, he would dream about her, and if the man loved her and she loved him, she would haunt him in his dreams, and that would be the end of him. They said because she was a creature of the devil. These warnings did not frighten the younger and more adventurous men from the villages around. They kept coming from near and far to gaze at Water Mama. After searching for her hair and her comb, they always had that haunted, fearful feeling. And many mornings, even as they walked away from the cooker, they slept as in a trance. But they would return night after night to stare in wonder at that strange, mysterious. At last, something happened. Something the old people had always said would happen. A man fell in love with the water woman. Some say he was from Salem, some say he came from Namrik, but his location wasn't definitely known. But it was certain that he was a young, tall, dark man with broad shoulders. His name was Big John. When Big John had first heard about the Water Mama, he laughed and said she was a Jumbie. But as time went by, Big John started to hear some fascinating rumors about Water Mama that made him curious day by day. Big John arrived at the cooker and he started to wait. Where is that mysterious creature? But when Big John was about to leave, he saw something fascinating. Suddenly, there was a strange woman sitting on a rock, combing her long black hair. It shone brightly in the moonlight. Big John made a few steps forward to see her more clearly, then suddenly she was gone with a big splash. Where he had seen her sitting, there was a pool of water, and there arose a strong fishy smell. "Come on, legs, move!" He had set out to go away from here. He tried to run but could only walk, and even as he began walking, his steps were slow. So he went home dizzy and sleepy. The next morning, when Big John awoke and remembered what he had seen and experienced that night before, he became afraid. He vowed never to go back to the cooker. But that night the moon rose. Big John's thoughts turned to the riverside and the strange woman combing her long black hair. And so that night he stood near the cooker waiting and watching for the strange woman to appear. Just like the night before, she appeared suddenly near the cooker, combing her hair. Big John stepped closer to her, but she plunged into the water, vanishing. And once again, Big John had that feeling of dread. He was feeling dizzy and sleepy while trying to make his way home. This went on for several nights, with the Big John becoming more and more fascinating as he watched the water mama comb her hair. After the third night, he no longer felt afraid, and he walked in the pool of water she had left behind. Sometimes he waited until morning and searched around for locks of her hair and her comb, but he never found them. After a few months of this waiting and watching, Big John felt sad and lost. He had fallen in love with the strange woman, but he could not get near to her, and so he stopped going to the riverside to watch her. The mood had gone and the dark nights came back. He began to drop her from his mind. But in another month the moon arose, sparkling on the river. Remember the water mama. He longed to see her combing her hair again. And on that very night, when the moon arose, he had a strange dream. He saw the water woman sitting near the cooker, combing her long black hair shining in the moonlight. She sat with her back to the river and her face full towards him. As she combed her hair, she smiled at him, enchanting him with her beauty. He stepped forward to get a closer look, but she did not move, and so at last he saw her clearly. She gave him her comb and said, "Take this to remember me by." Then she jumped into the river and disappeared. When he awoke the next morning, he remembered the dream. He felt happy as he told his friends what he had seen in the dream. "Last night I saw the water woman." He was afraid for him, and they warned him. "Is Hanji haunting you? She gonna make you dream and dream till you don't know what to do with yourself. When she ready, she gonna do what she feel like with you." "Big John, you better watch yourself with the water woman. The water woman going to haunt you to the end." These warnings made Big John laugh, and he told them, "She can't do me anything in a dream." But he warned him again. "You forgot about the water woman, but she don't forget about you. Is you start it when you watch it so much at the cooker. Now you rose and she want you. That is the story now, she want you, Big John." Later that day, he saw something strange. It made him shiver with dread. On the floor near his bed was a comb. He could not believe his eyes. It looked very much like the comb the water woman had given to him in the dream. When he told his friend about finding the comb, he said, "It's best for you to go away from here. It just started when you watch her so much time at the cooker." That night he had another dream. In this dream, he saw the water woman sitting in the moonlight. He stepped even closer to her than he did before, and she smiled at him. For the first time since he had seen her, she was not combing her hair, and she had no comb in her hand. He pulled out a few strands of her hair and gave them to him and said, "Keep these to remember me by." And he took them in his hands and smiled. And in another instant she vanished with a splash. The next morning, Big John awoke with a smile as he remembered the dream, but as he sat up in the bed, he found himself with a few strands of hair in his hand. His eyes opened wide in surprise. It was only then he realized that he was getting caught up in something strange. What's this? Dreams are becoming real? So the dreams went on night after night. They became like magnets, drawing Big John to bed early every night and holding him fast asleep till morning. They no longer made him feel afraid on awaking. In one dream, the water woman gave him a conch shell. On awaking the next morning, he found sand on his bed and grains of sand in both hands. One night he dreamt about him and the waterman playing along the river bank, splashing each other with water. The next morning he woke up, he saw his bed wet and splashes of water around the room. Big John told his friends about these dreams and they warned him. "The water woman has you under a spell." They were right, and he kept dreaming night after night. Then came his last dream. The water woman stood by the riverside, holding a large bundle to her bosom. She smiled and said, "You have my comb and strands of my hair. I have given you other little gifts to remember me by. Tonight I shall give you money to make you rich." And she said, "If you keep it a secret, you will stay on earth and enjoy it. If you do not keep it a secret, you must come with me and be my lover forever." And she plunged into the river with a big splash. When Big John awoke the next morning, he found the floor of his room covered with tens of thousands of $5 bills, piled up in high heaps. It took him a long time to gather them all. He counted them, and it was a vast fortune. Big John was too excited to keep this news a secret, and he told his friends about his dream. His friends' eyes bulged and their mouths opened wide in amazement. They made a wild scramble for the money, and they fought all night. They left poor Big John beaten on the ground. Nobody knows what happened to Big John after that. Some say the water woman came and took him. The end.